Wait for how long I was told. Well, no, yeah.
So it's easy to see.
Okay, we ready to go? Cameras working for them? For the
Yes.
audience?
Yes, they can see
Them.
the council, yes.
Smithfield Town Council, July 19th, 2021. Madam Clerk, will you lead us in the prayer and the pledge, please?
Lord, assist with thy Holy Spirit of counsel all those who are serving in positions of authority and responsibility. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves? Here. Mr. Corvo?
Here.
Mrs. O'Hara? Here. Mr. Vadnez?
Here.
Mr. Biragad.
Here. Open forum pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-6. Is there anybody out there that would like to be heard during open forum at this time? TJ, is anybody requesting to be heard?
Not yet, Mr. President. Anybody who would like to speak, please raise your hands or unmute yourself and start your video, make yourselves known. And nobody.
Mr. President, can I make a comment?
Please.
I just wanted to acknowledge the Parks and Rec Commission, especially the subcommittee of the public garden. I don't know if anyone had a chance to go view it on Thursday when they had like an open house, and I just want to let you know that it looks beautiful. There's a lot of vegetables coming in, and they've done a really nice job. And you know, kudos to them all for doing so much work, and they have a lot of volunteers helping out, and it's just a really nice thing that took off, and hopefully it can just grow in the future years.
That's great. I have my concerns too, that some animals would end up getting into that, and it'll work out pretty well. Thank you. All right, how about now, CJ? Is anybody like to be heard during open forum?
Nobody new has come in the meeting since we started the meeting, so, and I would say no.
Okay. Moving on then. What I'd like to do at this time is I'd like to make a change to the agenda. I would like to, under new business C, discussion by council vote on other action on contract for North Smithfield School Committee. Public hearing. We're going to begin with the public hearing on this. I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing at this time.
So
We have a motion. Is there a second? Ms. O'Hara seconds. Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
yes,
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Vadnez?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Is there anybody out there at this time that would like to be heard for the public hearing regarding the school contract? CJ, is anybody?
No, sir. Nobody's, everyone is still muted and not making themselves known.
Okay. All right, we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
so.
Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Vadnez?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Discussed by council what other action on 2021 to 2024 contract for the Smithfield School Committee and Teachers Association. Mr. Jesus, did you want
No, I'll leave it to the school committee to speak on
to?
that.
Okay, do we have, Mr. Jones, are you here representing the school committee at this time?
Yes, I am.
Okay, from what I see is, this contract was signed off on, and also, it was also reviewed by a budget committee.
Mhm.
The budget committee, stated that the review included an analysis of the school department's financial data detail and assumptions. The assumptions support their financial impact statement. They went on to say, based on the review, we are not aware of any material modification that should be made to the accompanying financial impact statement. And if that further reflects the changes to the North Smithfield teachers contract for the 3-year period, July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024. Is there anything that you'd like to add to this?
No, Mr. President, we took our time negotiating this. It was a lot of careful deliberation on the part of the school committee and on the part of the teachers. There was a lot of give and take, and on both sides, we're very satisfied with what we're looking forward to in the next 3 years.
Are there any teachers or any administrators out there that would like to be heard on this contract?
Mr. President, representative of the school department just is signing on. So you may want to just wait a second on that.
Okay. Yeah, they probably didn't realize we're gonna be moving it up.
And unfortunately, I don't know who it is. They signed on under the school department.
Give me a second.
Sure.
Are they in now? Have you let them in?
It's Mr. St. Jean.
Mr. St. Jean, we just noticed that you signed on. We moved the contract up to the top of the agenda. Is there anything that, any comments or anything you'd like to say about the contract? Teacher's contract, thank you.
Well, I would leave to that actually to Mr. Jones to address. He was our lead negotiator.
Yeah, Mr. Jones had already spoken just before you signed on.
I agree with everything he said.
Does anybody on the council have any questions for regarding the teacher's contract?
Mr. President, I have a couple of questions that, to try to move this thing forward. Can we get a breakdown of the teachers at each step, at every step? I know that steps 1 through 10 are not getting a raise. The only step 11 is getting a raise in this contract. But I was wondering if we could get a breakdown of the number of teachers on each step, because it's gonna determine what goes on going forward in the next few years. Not necessarily this contract, but in contracts after that. It's my belief that not addressing each of those steps every year, making some adjustment to them, is gonna come back and bite us in the long term. That you will get, it may not be in year 4, but year 5 or 6 or 7, there will be a huge adjustment that will need to be made. And it's gonna blow the numbers out of the water.
So you think at some point we'll be top heavy? At some point we'll be top heavy.
It'll be two ways. One, because you're not adjusting your steps. And so just use round numbers. If your first step teaches at 41,000 and it stays at 41,000 as you move along, all these other districts, which is the market that we competed, understand that teachers, the belief is that the teachers in the state of Rhode Island are some of the highest paid teachers in the country. With that being said, though, take some solace that the teachers in North Smithfield are at the lower third of that pile. So we're not paying our teachers, they're not the best paid teachers in the state. That being said, though, if we don't adjust those salaries when we remember to hire people, we'll end up just like the municipality was for a while when we were adjusting the salaries for certain people. You can't hire good people. to fill in. Or they come in and as soon as they have the opportunity, they jump to somewhere else for an instant raise. So that's one issue. And just by adjusting that top step, as it increases, you can see in this one, it increases from an $8,000 step to the end of the contract, it's a $12,000 step. Every one of those teachers, when they're gonna make that jump from 10 to 11, as it grows with no adjustment over there, the impact is gonna be even greater. As most people on the board know, I negotiated a number of teacher contracts in the past. I understand the dynamics of the steps, I understand the dynamics of the contract. This is a mistake, I think. Personally, I think it's a mistake not to address those steps in years 2 and 3. And only address the top step, that's the first part. So that's why I wanted to see a breakdown of teachers on each of the steps. The other thing that they brought it back was teachers have been given the vision rider. And years ago, the school committee took away that vision rider because upon analysis, we were paying $71 for a rider that had a $100 benefit. And not everybody utilizes the benefit. So the other question that I have is, what's the cost of that vision rider that they just implemented? We're paying for something that to me, there's no value in that. For the upcharge on it, for what we're paying for it and what the benefit is, it's not a good value. And the last point that I have was that when you look at the fiscal impact statement and you see that it's 441, 433, and 506. I don't have any questions with those numbers. They match up, they look good. I agree with it. I just look at the bigger picture, that those numbers will not be sustainable when we continue to go with 4% increases to the budget. It's going to grow faster than we can actually grow. And so eventually you'll get a budget that you will be forced to go to 4%, if nothing else, to meet a teacher contract. It will be dictating where your funding goes in the whole school department. Those are my concerns.
Legitimate concerns. Mr. Jones, could you address any of Mr. Vadney's questions?
Yeah, yes, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilor Vadney, for bringing this up and for a careful reading of the contract, which I appreciate. So, in terms of the breakdown for steps, yes, we can absolutely get that to the council. What we have in terms of staffing right now for our teachers is we have 114 people are at the top step currently. And that is out of 154.8 teachers, which means the teachers who are not on top step are at, that's just about 41 teachers. We went through a number of permutations about exactly how we were going to divvy up a certain pot of money. I made it very clear at the start of negotiations that there was a number we were going to be comfortable with. We were not going to exceed that number. This is the paradigm the teachers and the school committee decided on as being the most fair for the most number of teachers. That being said, in terms of where we stand as far as paying our teachers who are not at the top step, with every step that a teacher goes up, which is to say that every year in this seniority, they do average an increase due to their step in excess of 5%. And so not only is North Smithfield School Department a very competitive teaching district in terms of what we pay our teachers, it's also very attractive in terms of longevity for our teachers. There's incentive for them to stay. There's incentive for them to stay and work their way through the ranks, so it is, until they get into being that senior teacher. And we want our teachers to grow with us. So, you know, this is why the system is set up the way that it is. And we do want to retain that talent as well. And so, again, as a collective group, both sides of the equation with the teachers and the school committee, we felt like this was going to be the most fair and answer the most amount of questions. In terms of the vision rider, you know, I don't have that number in front of me and I don't want to guess. I'll defer that to the superintendent in a moment if he has that number. And if not, we will look into it and get you that exact number. In terms of the fiscal impact statement, you raise a great point, Councilor Vadney. there is, there is that concern that as the years go on, and as, not just contracts, but everything else in terms of education continues to increase in cost. What are we going to do as a town? I think there are a number of different ways that we can look at this and address this, not as an insular school committee and an insular town council. President Beauregard made a terrific recommendation during the budget hearing, which is that we should be talking more about how to proactively address these situations and scenarios before they unfold during a budget committee meeting, during a contract negotiation somewhere down the line. One of the biggest topics I think we still need to tackle is exactly what we're going to do as a town in terms of the out-of-district tuition that we're paying. We still are paying hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in out-of-district tuition for students who live in North Smithfield, but are going to schools outside of our district, and we foot that bill. And so we are taking money out of the pockets of students who live here in North Smithfield to pay for the students who are going elsewhere. And that's a real concern for me personally, but it's also a real concern for our town. And I think it's addressing that issue in whatever fashion or form we're going to be able to do that will go a long way towards helping the overall fiscal impact of our school department lessen and allow us to stop having to come year after year looking for that 4%, which is, as you know, Councilor Vadney, because you have such experience on the school committee, doesn't just come from the operations, doesn't just come from the salaries. It also comes from this large pot of money that we're basically giving away every year. So, but I thank you for those questions. And if the superintendent has anything on the vision rider, please jump in. And if not, then we will get you those numbers.
Mr. President, just so we're clear on one thing. When he talks about out of district tuitions, he's talking about charter schools in those issues. It's not necessarily out of district tuitions that are going to special needs students. I think, am I correct, Mr. Jones, when I reference that the issue is out of district tuitions that are going to either charter schools or, can't think of the term because I'm not familiar with it, but when they're going out of the schools to take their voc programs in their career to technical education, that's what it's called, CTEs.
Correct. If I can fill in there, we probably have about, I think about 100 students that between charter and vocational schools that were paying tuitions to go out of district. As far as high cost special education, we have about 17 this year. And one of the things that kind of tripped us up with the budget is that we've had 3 more referrals with some folks that have moved into town since we submitted that original budget, which has increased our out-of-district special education by $170,000. We did not make that adjustment. We kept with what the town council offered for our budget at the 2%, even though our high-cost special ed increased by an extra $170,000 that was unanticipated. So we're going to try to find the means to cover those tuitions. But yes, we've actually, with the out-of-district tuitions that we've been paying, we've leveled that off. In some areas, decreased it, and have started taking increasing number of students within the North Smithfield High School CTE programs. We finished last year with 7 students. We're looking at possibly 10, 11, or 12 incoming students paying us tuition for the next school year. I mean, obviously, we'll have to see how the summer unfolds and who follows through and who applies. As far as the vision, I actually just sent a text to Lisa Marcotte because, like Mr. Jones, I don't want to hazard a guess, but I'm pretty confident that it was between $14,000 and $17,000 a year to offer all of our teachers vision coverage. But yes, there is a certain there's a certain limit that we tried to operate, and the school committee was negotiating with the teachers as far as the percentage increases. One of the things I could say is that we are reasonably competitive with for the teachers who are on the step. I have to also say is that North Smithfield, it's a good environment, it's a good community, and we don't face attrition with our new teachers. If anything, you know, as we adjust with enrollments, changing enrollments every year, they want to hang on, they want to come back. So we don't have a situation in which we're training a cadre of excellent teachers only to lose them to another district. They do want to stay with us.
Does anybody else, anybody else have any questions for anybody regarding this teacher's contract? No? Okay, is there a motion to approve the 2021-2024 North Smithfield School Committee and North Smithfield Teachers Association contract? We have a motion, is there a second? Any further discussion on this?
Under further discussion, I think we should wait till we get that other information before we move forward with this. We can get answers to all of our questions.
Mr. Jones, are you still out there?
I'm still here. Yep.
So regarding Mr. Badney's question, was that information that was considered during the negotiations?
Which information specifically?
The question, the one point that you held up on is,
Both of them, the number of teachers on different steps in there, right?
I mean, we can furnish those numbers to you, Councilor Badnays. I don't know where it would wind up changing anything with the contract itself. In fact, Superintendent St. Jean, do we have some of this information readily available on the school department website already?
I'm sure it was in the budget projection. And like I said, I apologize, but we're in that 50 range for the 50 to 60 range for teachers on step, and 14 to 17,000 for vision. I wish I had a better memory and I could just recall the exact number off the top of my head.
The 14 to 17,000 does sound very familiar. It sounds right, but again, it's not something that we would want to hazard a guess. But you know, in terms of the fiscal impact statement, again, that was a terrific point, Councilor. But I don't think you mentioned that it was something that was hold up the passage. You know, at the end of the day, I do think that this contract is a fair contract for the teachers. I think it's a good contract for the teachers. And while I recognize that you would like to see perhaps some additional information, I don't see that this information would substantially change anything about the contract. And I would personally, if I was a teacher, not feel very comfortable at having the contract delayed that much more for information that I could furnish offline for you and anybody else who would ask.
anybody else have any questions? Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second on approval of the contract. Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yeah.
Mr. Badnees?
No.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. Discussion by council of other action on payment of bills. Does anybody have any questions regarding payment of bills at this time?
Mr. President, page 5 of 9. You'll have to give me back a little bit. It's listed as page 509. Or the Valenti LLC. I'm not necessarily somewhat questioning the amount of money. It's the billing issue. We've discussed this in the past. It seems to continue. You have billing that's in arrears for 6 months. We have no idea, and now we're seeing the bill 6 months later. And we're reviewing it, and I'm sure that the police department, I'm sure that Mr. Jesus are looking at this and reviewing it. But this gentleman needs to submit his invoices in a more timely manner in order for approval to come.
Just for the
Yourself,
record, I have, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just for the record, I have numerously discussed this with him. Face to face, on the phone, by emails. The chief has talked to him. It gets to the point that it's June and I have to beg for 6 months so I can close out the year. And that's exactly what happened here. And he still owes me for June. I think there's only through May.
What does he do? What's his?
He's an IMC expert for the police station, so the software that the police station utilizes, he's certified in it, so he helps them with the recording, the upgrade and so forth. So from what my understanding is that they might even go to a different software anyway, so the state might be moving the software to a different direction for the whole entire state. So I'm hoping that will come in the near future. We won't have to rely on this one vendor for everything.
So he'll go with it.
Excuse me?
So he'll go with it. Without the door?
I also wanted to point out that there is a mistake on this on the first page. That the second where it says water and sewer water, that 86,721.03, that should be 86,821.03. Everything else total is fine.
So the total is the same?
Yes, it's just that one number, that 7 should have been an 8, and I apologize.
But the grand total was correct.
Everything's correct. I checked it and rechecked it.
I actually have a question regarding the bills. If you look at Valley Breed's payments on pages 3 and 8.
3 and 8.
Yeah. I know that's this is more of a question for Joanne. This is, I imagine that these things are notifications that we have to make for public hearings and things like that. If you go on the Valley Breeze website, like I do, I tend to read Valley Breeze articles on the website and not so much grab the paper. You don't see these, right?
Right.
So what I'm asking is if the Valley Breeze could not have the monopoly on this, if we could maybe spread the wealth a little bit and put notifications in like NRI Now, who is a online publication and comes out regularly, and probably more likely of people seeing it that are not likely to pick up the newspaper, but just for browsing the internet.
Yeah, we have to do legal.
It has to be a
So-
published
It has
newspaper.
to be
So we-
a published.
It has to be a published newspaper. It has to be advertised in a published newspaper.
I
Really?
mean,
So
we
that
could
means
put
that
it
it'd be the
online
reason-
too,
reason to follow the journal of choices.
Mhm.
With the designation of general circulation being available to pick up. So,
Old school.
So if we have like an advertisement, for instance, like Halloween Committee, we can't advertise it in like NRI Now or
No, we can't.
It depends
We
what,
can.
it depends what you're putting it up for.
We just have to put it in the other paper first. That's fine.
So as long as you put it in the other paper as well.
Right.
we've done both, Mr. President. When we were seeking members to participate on boards and commissions, we did both.
Okay, I'm just saying, can we make that a practice to, I'm just trying to be as transparent and open as possible, so people, when we make notifications, that people will be able to, see them. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. It's not a lot.
Right now it's very reasonable, but as you're well aware, we also post on a weekly news every Friday that goes up. That has 2,000 recipients.
Okay.
So it's not a newspaper general circulation, but the word's getting out as well as NRI Now and the Valley Breeze.
All right, I just don't want to hear anybody say I didn't see it, and then we're gonna give them every opportunity.
So they will, Mr. President. No matter what.
Yeah, you're right.
They will.
All right, thank you. I don't have any more questions. Anybody else? We have a motion for approval? No.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the bills as approved by the finance director and town administrator in a total amount of $3,146,098.51.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Discussion by council vote on other action on consent agenda. All items in this section are considered in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council so requests. In which event, the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Does any council wish to have any item removed from the consent agenda at this time? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as noted.
So
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
yes.
Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Second. And moving on to all business. Discussion by council vote on other action on update of the municipal building review task force. Is Mr. Notro with us?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Notro.
If I may, I'll first do the payment and then I'll do the update on where we're at, if that's all right.
Sure, that's fine.
On our June 24th meeting, the task force approved invoice number 44064 in the amount of $26,100 from Tecton. Keep in mind, this is a fixed fee contract by task. So on the attachment to the bill, my letter to you, you can see that the first task is 100% complete. The second one is 100% complete. The conceptual design is 60% complete, and the new construction conceptual design is 60% complete as of that billing. So we asked for approval for that amount, $26,100.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Notro on this issue? No? All right, is there a motion to approve?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve invoice number 44064 dated June 23rd, 2021 from Tecton Architects in the amount of $26,100.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes, Mr. Notro, do you have anything else?
Yes, this is a good lead-in to where we are with the project. So you see the 6 tasks at our July 12th meeting. Well, prior to July 12th, they completed the conceptual design for the rehab of the existing building versus a new building. They had just gotten the cost estimate from their subcontractor, and it was very preliminary. They're still evaluating it, but the project is still on schedule. I expect that we would have something to the council. I would think the end of August, early September timeframe. So they've been working hard and they continue to be on schedule. With that, if you have any questions, I'll certainly attempt to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Notro? think nobody has anything for you, Mr. Northrum. Thank you for your time, sir. Okay, moving on. Discussion by council vote on the action and update on Hallowell Review Committee. Mr. Corporal, do you have any updates for us?
I do, yes. So we met last Thursday, and we had Weston and Sampson come in to give us an update on the project and answer any questions we might have, as well as go over the public charrette in the format that's going to be occurring this Saturday, the 24th, from 9 until about 11:30. One of the topics that we talked about as far as progress on the engineering contract at the Hallowell property is they were supposed to give us an update on the electrical in the buildings there, a full assessment. And due to some staffing issues, they weren't able to get that completed last month. So we asked them, when it would be completed. They were supposed to have an internal dialogue today or tomorrow, and hopefully they'll update us sometime this week as far as updating that timeline. We also went over the survey that we completed, which lasted for 6 weeks, which many of you are aware of that survey that went out to not only the departments within the town, but also the town residents. We received 441 responses back. If you really think about it, if you multiply that times 2 or 2.5, that probably gives you a better scope of the impact of residents, not only those over 18, but those under 18 as well. So if you look at that, we probably, looked at responses out of 441, probably a good assessment of about 800 to 1,000 people that responded. 90% of those opted to keep the property, while 70% wanted it to be utilized, or at least part of it, to be utilized as a multi-generational center. So whether that was a senior center, children's center, or community center, 70% came back and said that they do want to not only keep it, but that they want part of it to be used as a multi-generational center. We then talked about the format of the public charrette. Again, that's this Saturday at the Hallowell property for a site tour. That's going to last about 30 minutes, 30 or 40 minutes or so. And then from there, I know that Chairman Jeff Porter is here, so if anything you want to add, feel free. But after that, we're going to be moving to the middle school cafeteria. We felt that that was probably the best option to accommodate the number of people, given the type of weather we've been having in the last couple of weeks, where the rain has been very sporadic. So that will be held at the cafeteria in the North Smithfield Middle School, and that's going to take place around 10:30. At that point, we'll have a public discussion. We will start off presenting by the vice chair, Chris Simpkins. He will start off by presenting the full survey results in a PowerPoint presentation, which we've already seen last Thursday, and it's very, very good. So if you have an opportunity, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you take the time and at least come over to the middle school at that time to see the presentation. And then after that, Weston and Sampson will follow up with their own presentation, and I'm assuming open it up for any questions or anything else that the public would like to have answered.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions, Mr. Carlo? Thank you. And that leads us right into the next thing. Appointment of one member for completion of a 2-year term ending 11/30/2022. In your packet, you will find applications of 8 individuals that are requested to be placed on the Hallowell committee. What I would like to do, the way I'd like to do this is similar to what we've done in the past. I'll read the names of each applicant. If at that point, after I read the name, if you'd like to make a motion, you make the motion. Then we'll continue down the list. I will not ask for a second at that time. This way here, everybody can see who got a nomination. And then I'll go back to the top and I'll ask for a second and so on and so on. Okay? So I will begin with Lori Chaudier. Do we have a motion for Lori Chaudier?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Laurie Chartier as one of the opening appointments for the Alloy Review Committee.
Okay, Joanne, we have a motion for Lori Chaudier. Okay. We have Ron Bellevue. Do you have a motion for Mr. Bellevue? Okay. Christine Bonas. Am I pronouncing that right? Christine Bonas. Do we have a motion? Mrs. Bonas, Ms. Bonas. Okay. Guy Boulay. Do we have a motion for Mr. Guy Boulay? Okay, Joyce Dolbeck. I would like to take the opportunity to nominate, put a nomination in for Ms. Dolbeck. Holly Piper. Do we have a motion from Ms. Holly Piper?
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Holly Piper.
We have one nomination by Ms. Alves for Ms. Piper. Cynthia Roberts. Would anybody like to make a motion to nominate Ms. Roberts?
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Cynthia Roberts.
Okay, we have one nomination for Cynthia Roberts. Mark Labasia. Would anybody like to nominate Mr. Labasia? Okay, so we have, how many nominations do we have? 4?
4.
Okay, let's move back up to the top then. Lori Chaudier, we have a second for Ms. Chaudier.
Second.
Okay, we have a second for Ms. Chaudier. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to have a discussion. So I've known Lori Chartier now for about 10 years. She's a mom in town. She has three teenagers, one of which just recently graduated from Smithfield this past year. And she's also very active in the community. She walks the Hallowell property quite often. She has reached out to me on several occasions asking when she can get involved, if she can get involved in the Hallowell. And I kept telling her that, unfortunately, there's no membership seats open, but should there, have one come up, I had mentioned to her or encouraged her to apply. The moment that it got posted, she contacted me right away and said, I already filled out my application. Who do I send it to? I said, well, send it to town hall, and then it will eventually get to the town council members. Last, I just want to say your commitment, I find is second to none. She has volunteered every year proactively as a chaperone on the North Smithfield Ski Club. And always showed up, never was missing, always asking where to help. So I think she'll be a good asset to the Hallowell Review Committee.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about Ms. Chaudier? Okay, we have a motion and a second from Ms. Chaudier. Roll call on Ms. Chaudier, please.
Ms. Alves?
No.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez,
No.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. So it looks like Lori Chaudier is a new member of the Hallowell Committee.
Nope.
Moving on. Discussion by council vote of other action on potential auction at the Hallowell School. Mr. Porter. So I think you guys all have a letter from me, dated I think July 12th. We had our walkthrough of the property mid-June, excuse me. And we found that there was quite a bit of items that were left behind. So we were thinking how to really be most efficient of utilizing, moving costs, identifying some things, furniture that may be needed either in the new town hall here or elsewhere throughout town. So we're recommending that town departments and town committees and commissions go through the property, tag what may be salvaged for whatever purpose, whether, DPW has some use for desks, or if we find that, once building 10 is cleared, we can salvage some of the tables to use for future use, we can do that. But then to mitigate some of the dumpster costs and moving costs, we would essentially recommend that you put out to bid or auction, similar to how you work with DPW when they have gear that's older and needs to be replaced and they discard it in that fashion. So again, we were thinking about how it saves on moving costs. We don't have to worry about moving things. The various departments in town can grab what they need, and then that way we're starting off with a pretty clean slate. So I'm here if there's any other questions for you guys. So it would be kind of like storage was, right? Say someone goes and they say, I want everything in room 10, Essentially. and then they got everything in room 10, but they're gonna take everything off the back of the good, clean it up. Yep, that's essentially the thought.
I don't think we can do that.
Why not?
As a municipality, we have to advertise. That's how it works at the DPW with surplus equipment. People bid on it. So written bids. It's not I understand what Mr. Ford is looking at, or you're thinking of this as an auction, but if we really have to put out a bid spec and have people come in and bid on it, it could simply be that there are 40 desks in the school that you want to get rid of. 40 desks, what do you want to bid on? Someone could bid $1 and they want 40 desks, I don't think we can have an auction like that because it's municipal property. It has to go through the bid process to get rid of surplus equipment.
The benefit of doing that, I'm sure you see it, is just, you gotta take, basically everybody, basically we have the place cleaned up.
I understand. I don't think we can do that as a municipality.
Mr. Porter, I'd like to comment, when they were going to tables, that summer, there was the biggest dumpster I've ever seen in my life. And it was filled with desks. And I can tell you, the 24 desks I had were like, when I left that school, were like new. The kids were responsible, they had to keep them up. And I would bet, and I don't do that much, I'm sure, that people would have come and paid $5 to $10 for a desk as a remembrance for their child. But instead we dumped it. And it wasn't someone picking it up in a truck, it was a dumpster. If the law does not allow us to do it your way, would it be possible to at one time do it where individuals can buy a remembrance in the school?
I don't think our committee would be opposed to that. Honestly, we were just looking at the best way to clean out the buildings, get a clean slate, maybe do some good. Well, I know that building 11 has a good amount of desks still remaining there. So if there's if we can use them in our school, great. If another school in the neighborhood wants to purchase them from us, then I think that the process that Mr. Madnick has laid out as well. You guys are more familiar with the process of how these things work than I am. So the recommendation to either auction or put out to bid these items was just, one of our recommendations, because I think we could really get some success in cleaning out the buildings.
The one thing they did mention that I liked was offering it to other community groups. Some of the equipment that's there, like the shelving, you mentioned the shelving for the food bank. the Heritage Association and use some shelving to store some of their records now that they're moving the old Memorial Town building. They could use some, so let these guys go through there. The reality is, if you've been through these buildings, I don't know many of you have been really through the buildings. I know it's Steve, you've been, because obviously, yeah, it's been, but there isn't really a lot of good stuff. That's what I feel. There was some stuff like that was left in the library, the shelving and some of that stuff.
There is value to some of that stuff. It definitely is value.
There is some of
If
it.
there was two small desks and your child went to that school, it'd be nice to get those two things. And what's $10 and $5 test, nothing.
I mean, there are also two large format copy machines in there too. One in building 5 and one in the cafeteria. You have to go searching for it, but it's in the back where the boys' locker room used to be. So, and there's even tubs of paint. I don't know how good those tubs of paint still are, but all stuff that could be salvaged.
You know what it is? It's like The Walking Dead. When you see that place, like they just walked away from it one day and that was it.
I made that,
Yeah,
when I was sitting in US 2 years ago.
they just walked away and they didn't take anything with
It
them.
was
It was like
sad.
it was like a homeowner that owned the house.
Walked
Walked
out.
away from the mortgage and just walked away from it. And we've had that discussion and I understand Mr. Porter and the rest of the committee's things, but I think rightfully we have to go out and put it out as a bid. We just can't have an auction. As good as that sounds.
Well, if it's not an auction, just put things up for sale.
Right, but the whole idea of what Mr. Porter was saying, and we discussed it that day at the thing, at the meeting, the outdoor, at Hallowell, was the idea behind it was even if somebody just bids $100, they still got to clean it all out, and we're kind of getting it cleaned out for nothing. But let me just, want her to ask Ms. Igliozzi if that's, Ms. Igliozzi, are you with us?
I am, Mr. President.
Regarding the discussion we're having, what's the, as far as the procedure and the legality of,
Well, I mean, I'm a little curious because it was my understanding that the school department had made a determination what was and was not salvageable when they left the building. I think we should, my suggestion would be to just make sure you get a final report from the school department. I understand they have vacated the building, but my understanding is that they made a determination on what was and wasn't valuable. So I assume there's nothing of value to the school department. If that's the case, then the question is it valuable to any other municipal entity? And if not, then the council can make a determination that the property is of no or little value and then put it up for advertised salvage sale. But I'm just a little, I'm just questioning that, was there ever, I don't have I have a vague recollection of some comments from the school department regarding the material in the building being, they took whatever they thought was valuable and salvageable.
yeah, I don't think they come back.
That's vague.
I don't think they
No,
come back.
but David's question is if they signed off on it, and I believe that they have. I believe that Mr. Zalski, when he was the administrator, we had to get them to sign off that the town actually took responsibility for everything that was there, because we had to transfer insurance from the school department to the town. So I believe that's been taken care of, that we own it.
Right, so the question, Ms. Igliozzi, is the format of getting rid of everything. Is it,
Well, again, I think the system is to determine if there's any value to any other entity in town. If there is none, then you have the power under the charter to declare the property no longer of any value. And you can either determine that it is zero value and gets dumped, or salvageable value and sold for the highest, at a advertised bid. You're not contracting to buy something, you're offering something for sale. So you have the power to determine whether it still has value. It's like when you determine that a piece of property is no longer of value to the town and you deed it, and you then allow it to be deeded to, like, use the example of the paper streets when you deed them. That's a function of the town council determining the property has no value to the town. So you'd be doing the same thing. You should take an inventory of what's there. So I would ask you to ask the Hallowell Committee or Public Works Department or whoever else is in control of that building to give you an inventory and have it valued. That'd be my suggestion.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I agree with the dialogue that's taking place there. We should first try to find a good home for this lightly used equipment. Whether we sell it or give it away. One thing I'd like to remind everyone is the interlocal trust, and maybe Mr. Porter can bring us up to speed on this. We are having the buildings checked for mold. And if we allow people to go walking through there without proper respiration, we can have a liability issue. Now, I do want this to happen. I don't want to be the roadblock that stops this, but I certainly don't want anybody becoming ill that ventures into those rooms.
I guess we have a little more looking into this, I guess. We'll figure it out.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you guys have any more questions, I'm here. Sorry. That was all.
Thank you. Discussion by council vote of other action on appointment of a deputy town clerk. At this point, I will recuse. So,
Old business, item D, discussion by council vote or other action on appointment of deputy town clerk Tammy Jakes, appointment of the town administrator.
Madam Vice President, it is my pleasure to announce with town council approval the appointment of Tammy Jakes as the deputy town clerk. Well,
Thank you.
so just to make sure, Mr. Iglesias, are you still with us, sir?
Yes, Mr. President, I'm with you.
But just to make sure we're following proper protocol, is this going to call for a vote of town council to accept the town administrator, my nomination of Tammy Jakes to deputy town clerk?
Mr. Administrator, I'm checking right now because I see the clerk has it listed as an appointment, and I just want to make sure, if my memory, I just want to check. It's under Article 9 of the charter, and I'm checking as we speak, if you'll bear with me.
Mr.
The,
Solicitor with the
yeah,
council.
it indicates that that it's appointed by the town administrator with the approval of the town council. And the deputy town clerk is appointed in the same manner. So yes, the council needs to vote.
Mr. President, you've heard my nomination. Hopefully one of the council members will make a motion. We'll get a second. And I hope it's unanimous.
Madam President, I make a motion to follow the administrative recommendation and appoint Tammy Jakes as the deputy town clerk.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Alves.
Thank you. Thank you.
Discussion by council, vote of other action on Turfield USA contract. Mr. Zelinski, there was a little confusion. Can you just kind of,
Right up to about 6:15 this evening, Mr. President, but I think I have a resolution. I think it's solid. We found out lengthy conversations with Superintendent St. Jean, Finance Director DeJesus. The contract had some changes in it, and it's gone before the contractor themselves, their attorneys, their legal department to approve it. I would just ask the solution would be if council would be amenable that when the contract comes back, Solicitor Iglesias and myself look at it, we find it true to form, it covers all the questions that we may have. Of course, there may be some questions tonight at this council meeting. We can incorporate things into this contract, and then if all these things are met, vote to give the town administrator the authority to sign off on this.
So the changes were the same, that they're making, just kind of highlight what we discussed. It's the same contract that we discussed last week.
Minor things, when I did have a chance to open it up at around 6 o'clock this evening, you folks haven't seen it. The Superintendent St. Jean talked about section 5.1, we removed section 9, site security be the responsibility of the contractor. Section 5, bond cost is built into the bid, no additional cost. I think it looks pretty good, but I would like to see, actually sit and take time to read the new one that arrived at 4:21 this afternoon. The amended updated.
Now, would you like us to continue and we could actually vote on this now instead of putting it off another 2 weeks?
Yes, Mr. President, I believe in the last council meeting, you were fairly succinct when you said 2 weeks makes a big difference with sports coming in the fall. There is a 21-day notice that the contractor needs to get materials on site to mobilize his force and to do the type of work that's required. So if we were to put this off to August 2nd, I think we're just pushing this out too far.
Okay. We have a motion on this? Ms. Alves?
I can make a motion to approve the contract with Field Turf USA between the Smithfield School Department with the changes as noted in the email from Friday, July 16th from Michael St. Jean in regards to section 5.1, section 9, and section 5.
Second that motion.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, some discussions about a number of issues that we need to.
Okay.
Number one, we don't know if their bonding is in place. This is a municipal project over $1 million. We don't know if their bonding is in place. That's a contingent part of your signature would be bonding would be in place.
It's not mentioned in there, Mr. Vanny, but I did mention the bond. We are going to pursue to make sure that we have a $5 million bond in place for protection.
Yeah, that's one part. Start and finish date should be in this contract. When they're gonna start, when they're gonna finish. As Mrs. Zelinski pointed out, once they get the plans of what the turf is supposed to look like, they have 21 days from that date. I believe they do have a picture of what the turf is gonna look like now. So they have 21 days from the date we sign it. And then 28 days after they get it to install. So the reality of it is this field isn't gonna be done until the middle of October. Just running their timeline. But we should have a start and finish date in this contract. When they're gonna start, when they're gonna finish. There's no mention in here of the warranty, the 8-year warranty. That's an important piece of this contract. That we have that 8-year warranty in writing. That covers, and the warranty covers general use in where, when we're not something extraordinary like they were talking about as someone with a fire line, which don't laugh, it's happened to other people's things with fire. Great response, a lot of insurance stuff like that. We should have that name. It was discussed when I joined the meeting the other night, when I was late joining the meeting, that there was gonna be maintenance done to that on a regular basis, yearly maintenance and testing being done in that field. That's not listed in here. And then who's gonna do that testing? It should be a third party that's doing that testing. Now, all those things may be in the bid documents. I haven't seen them. I don't think anyone here has seen them. I talked to the finance director. It's too big of a file for her to even send us an email to me. Those issues may be in the bid document. And then this references certain issues in the bid document. But I haven't seen it, so I can't tell you what the answer is. But this contract should include those things. That are there.
Just check if there's anybody on there that Mr. CP's not on, is it?
I don't see him.
I don't see him either.
Mr. St. Jean's gone.
He is.
Yes, I'm going to pose that question to him.
Mr. St. Jean, are you there?
I'm here.
Did you hear Mr. Vadney's concerns on this contract?
Yes, I took his notes and I believe they are referencing the bid document, but certainly something to follow up on. It's my understanding that everything that you mentioned is included in this package.
Okay, so we could, Mrs. Zelinski, if we when you and Mr. Igliosi get together to confirm this final contract, that if we give you authorization, you could confirm, you could assure that these issues would be taken care of.
Mr. President, I'd like to suggest that the school department, school superintendent, or the plan operations management address all these issues in the contract. Once that contract has been addressed and I receive a copy of it, the solicitor and I will take a look at it. I don't think that it's within the purview of the domain of the town administrator to pursue these issues. I'll make sure that they are in there. We've made these, but I think this should emanate from the school department, the superintendent, operations plan management. So, if I get all Mr. Bentley's questions, which were on my list, he did have one I didn't have, but the testing. So, yeah, when we get them and they're incorporated in that contract, I will, the authority of the council to sign it.
I mean, I agree with you that we need to get this going sooner rather than later, but we need to make sure that we're covered as well. Before we, the reality of it is they could probably get started next week, even though we don't have a signed contract, if they're willing to do that, as long as we get in writing what we need in that contract.
A bond in place, so, yes.
Bonding is a big piece of this.
So I hope I was succinct in what I was asking here is that the school department, plant management operations.
Mr. CP's, Mr. CP should get the answers.
Pursue this, the sooner I get it, the sooner the solicitor can, and I can review it and make sure that these points are incorporated in that contract.
In between you and Mr. Igliosi and Mr. CP, you may find that it's in the bid document. Because it references the bid document, I just haven't, we didn't have access to it, that's okay. But the contract right now, $1 million contract, because of the town announcement.
Well, I can tell you all those things are in the bid document, yeah, but we will make sure that, it's there to Mr. Igliosi's and the town administrator's satisfaction.
Thank you. I was glad to see that 5.1 disappeared. I've never seen a municipal contract where we pay 35% up front for who we awarded. I've never seen that in my 20-something years of doing this. I've never seen a contract where the town puts money up front. I can see when the copy comes in that they want, they can submit a pay rec. When it's on site, they can submit that pay rec. So the copy's in, they can submit a pay rec for it as they progress through the process. It's not, we don't have payment at the end of the day, but I've never seen that when we put up money up. So I was glad to see that.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for approval. Then we can make additional approval based on the concerns that were brought up. Everybody agree that it's additional approval?
Can we just lay out those conditions again, just so? Yeah, real quick off the top of my head, we need a bond in place. Usually it's $1 million to $5 million. I would have to pay for a $5 million bond in place for injury as well as completion of the job. We can have a performance put in place to make sure that it's done correctly. We're going to look for a warranty, start and finish date, begin, end. Warranty we mentioned, maintenance contract, which was something I believe we had, I think maybe in the minutes that we're talking about maintenance contracts, so if anybody wants to review that, go back into the minutes. And testing to make sure that the proper amount of crumb, as it's referred to, is level. And also take a look at the field. We didn't mention, the track. We didn't mention the track tonight, but that's all part of it. And not to add any confusion, the throwing cages and all that is a totally separate issue. So right now we're looking at the field for soccer, football, lacrosse, and the track.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
You're good.
Yes. Okay, moving on to number 8. Smithfield Town Council, City of Board of Licenses. Public hearing regarding the This is a public hearing, discussion by council vote other action on the BBL liquor license for the beef farm located at 200 Industrial Drive. I will entertain a motion now to open up the public hearing on this.
Mr. President, make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Okay, the public hearing is now open. Is there anybody out there that would like to be heard on this issue? Just for the public's information, the liquor license is a beer and wine. It's not a full liquor license. CJ, is anybody requesting to be heard right now?
Mr. President, no. Nobody's on video or raising their hand.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Okay, now, moving on to number one, discussion by council vote of the action on liquor license for the beef farm located at 200 Industrial Drive.
Mr. President,
Ms. Alves.
Just confirm that town clerk, I see everything's listed here and approved, but everything's in order, correct?
Yes.
Is that anything? I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the BBL liquor license for beef farm located at 200 Industrial Drive.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second. I'm sorry, I thought you had a question, but is there any further discussion?
just one point of clarification that we go through. Has all the approval that we need except the fire department. Fire marshal hasn't signed off, basically because your building is incomplete. Correct. So you're not going to be utilizing the license anyway, so you can authorize it pending that approval. And then it's, until he gets the seal, we can use it. So,
Okay. Is there any further discussion? I'd just like to say one thing, Mr. Branchard, your restaurant has been a staple in town for I don't know how many years now.
Since 68, I think, am I right?
69. And I know you could have packed up and just had your one restaurant, but you stayed invested in the town, and that is very much appreciated. I wish you the best of luck.
thank you very much.
Is there anything else? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Thank you very much. You can go to-
You may want to stick around for the last item. The council will move up the item on the agenda for the proposed amendment on town ordinance stabilization of taxes for commercial expenses. That will also involve the fee fund. So if council.
Yeah, I'm
says
glad to move
moving
that up.
Move from the other.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it, yeah.
Last one, just before I adjourn.
Item I in the new business.
Okay, we're gonna move up I right now. Discussion by council vote of other action on proposed amendment on town code ordinance section 6-3.11. Stabilization of taxes for commercial expansion and new development. This is the first reading.
To the end of the package.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments regarding this amendment? I think the changes, one of the changes, if we can highlight them, were the fact that two major changes were that they would have until they have a certificate of occupancy to apply for this tax stabilization agreement. And also they would be notified when they file for their permits and everything, that this tax stabilization agreement exists.
But yes, Mr. President, moving forward, that'll be a common part of the application process where they go into the building inspector or planning, in this particular case, building and zoning department. It did not require a planning review because it was existing use.
exactly what Mr. Branchow was bringing over there. He had adequate, he met all the section 17 requirements. Also, the building and zoning officials agreed with the town plan. So some of those things, BPON did not have to go through. I'd also like to point out that we're not making adjustments to the ordinance for the beef pond. It's just that the beef pond's application, the whole process brought something to light that there was a problem with the ordinance. Yeah, to my knowledge, there's another business person in town that's contemplating investing heavily in the property. So we may see more of these. We may see, hopefully, we see more of these, and we see jobs created.
Well, I think that, to follow up with the administrator, you have Met doing a major expansion. That group over at the electrical building, they're doing a major expansion. Allison is doing an expansion. And I'm thinking that New England Truck Solution is making an expansion. He's clearing a huge lot back there. So I'm thinking those are three big guys every town that are making things that this is going to help them. Part of the flaw that we uncovered in this was that why would someone be seeking this when they don't even have approval for a project yet? And it needed to be done before they got any of the approvals. So now we've said, no, you can go get all your approvals and then come see us for this.
Right.
That was one of the flaws. The other thing I wanted to ask the administrator, the next section E, about when they apply for it. We actually have an application for that.
We do.
Do?
Yes, we do. Be fine. Sorry, Mr. Branch, fine. Be fine. You know, I'm trying to be. Yeah, they have filed met all the requirements.
No, I know that we want, but there is an application.
Yes.
That's why I didn't know if there was. Should we also mention that the EDC should be pursuing this as well as building, planning and zoning?
Well, I did have a conversation with Mr. Byron, the chairman of the EDC, and he's aware of this, and EDC has been doing their best to promote it. So actually, I was on with the Chamber of Commerce, and I spoke about this back in March. So one of the things, if I hear about it, I'll reach out. Mr. Branch, I can tell you, I drove down to his establishment. He had his carpenter's apron on. I said, "Hey, do you fill this out yet?" He said, "No." So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be knocking on doors and talking to people. If you can't, this is the filled out application. I have it right here. If you want to take it.
No, I was just curious, if we even had one, because people don't even know about this.
That's the thing.
That's a
People
lot
don't
of
know.
problem. People don't even know about the ordinance.
I told the town the application, they didn't know what I was talking about. And they really didn't.
We have them now. It was in a
I'm
file.
talking about like 3 months ago. 4 months ago.
Yeah, but we have. I delivered it to you.
No, that was a month or whatever it was. I'm talking
They're
about-
available. We're fine tuning this so that all businesses, we're gonna make this as business friendly as we can. And you know, the nice thing, we talk about job creators, but they're gonna be job multipliers. So if we start talking about these other locations and they hire more people, well, they're gonna go down and visit Mr. Branchow for their lunch, and then Mr. Branchow's gonna have to hire more people, complete staff. It's a beautiful thing. Yep.
If only I could hire people.
Oh, yeah, that will change.
Nobody wants to work.
That'll change. Okay, I think first we can take a vote on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Good
You
night,
want 2
thank you,
weeks?
everyone.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's a little, it's. Okay, moving on to new business. Discussion by council vote of action on payment of invoices. Mr. Jesus. Sorry, I was distracted. Okay, payment of invoices.
Oh, I'm sorry. The 2 invoices that are in the packets are from the school department. They're being paid out of the school routing account. They both from STV. One is in the amount of $304.50. And the other one's in the amount of $1,179. They were both approved by the facilities director, the superintendent, and the chairman of the school committee.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve STD DPM invoice number 900200859, the amount of $1,179.
That's a motion on the first one. Wait a second.
Second.
Wait a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Ms. Alves,
Yes.
Mr. Carvo,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara, Mr. Vadnez.
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. We have the second one.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the invoice from STD DPM number 9002181 dated 6/16/2021 in the amount of $304.50.
Motion, we have a second.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Ms. Alves,
Yes.
Mr. Carvo,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara, Mr. Vadnez.
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Discussion by council vote of other action on renewal of 2021 to 2022 open government contract building inspection for town clerk's office. Mr. Jesus?
The invoices and contract that's in front of you is for open gov. Building inspection uses it for permitting and the clerk uses it. Sorry, it's what?
OpenGov we use for all licenses and what else are we using it for? Pretty much all of our licenses right now.
These, this represents the maintenance for a one-year contract for systems that they already have. This has already been budgeted in the fiscal 22 budget. I'm asking for your approval to have the town administrator sign the contract and also for them to be paid. The building inspection amount is $4,057.20 and the town clerk is $5,796.
Ms. Owens?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract for OpenGov in the total amount of $4,057.20 as per the recommendation of the finance director and
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves,
yes.
Mr. Carvo,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara,
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez.
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
And that's only for the building inspector.
Uh-huh.
There's another one.
Yes, there's another one.
So I'd also like to make a motion to approve invoice for OpenGov in the total amount of $5,796, which is for the clerk's office,
Yeah.
as per the recommendation of the town clerk and finance director.
Motion, we have a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Alves,
Yes.
Mr. Carvo,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara,
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez.
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Okay, we already dealt with C. We're going to move on to D. Discussion by council for action on award of bid for gasoline, diesel fuel to Peterson Oil Services. Mr. Pendergast, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. I'm looking for approval for the gasoline and diesel fuel bid, which is through the Rhode Island Municipal Purchasing Agents Association, of which the town of North Smithfield is a partner in, for a one-year extension on their contract expiring on June 30th of 2022. I just want to note that there is no increase in the fuel.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vadnez?
I make a motion that we award a bid for gasoline diesel fuel to Peterson Oil Services based on the recommendation of Mr. Pendergast and Mr. Jesus.
Okay, that's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a note, there will be an increase in fuel prices, but it's 5 cents. We pay, there's no increase in what we pay, the markup on it. It's still 5 cents over the rack price. The rack price goes $4, we're paying $4.05. So there's no increase. It's not that we don't pay the increase in fuel cost. It's no increase in what we pay over the rack price.
Right, the company doesn't make any more money, obviously, we're paying.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. It's based on the OPIC number.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. E, discussion by council vote of action on supplementals. Ms. St. George, you with us?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I'm proposing real estate supplemental of $1,385.34. Motor vehicle supplemental of $386.73. A total of supplemental bills to $1,772.07.
Okay, should we do one at a time? Let's do the real estate. Motion approved for $1,385.34.
So,
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. And now is there a motion to approve the $386.73? Well,
so moved.
is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Alves? Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Discussion by council vote on the action on award of bid for tree trimming, removal, family tree service incorporated. Ms. Pendergast?
Yes, sir. I'm looking for approval of the off the master price agreement through the Rhode Island Department of Administration for tree trimming for Stanley Tree Services. The agreement is not to exceed the budgeted 21-22 amount in the operational and reserve budget of $50,000.
Is there a motion to approve and authorize the signature?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we award the bid for tree trimming and removal to Stanley Tree Service based on the state MPA number 372, with a not to exceed amount of $50,000 and authorize the administrator to sign.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion by council vote on action on penalty tax adjustments. Mr. Jesus.
Yes, the collection agency received quite a bit of undeliverable bills, and they did a second round where they searched the addresses and found quite a bit of them. The deceased amount that I'm asking to adjust is in the amount of $4,278.44. If you want to do one at a time, one. And then, well, I got 2 pages, and then the second page is taxpayers that have contacted me to get some relief on interest, and I did the same thing that I did with the first round of people. I based it on my scale, which is listed on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page. And that total I'm proposing to adjust is $4,011.15. And total fiscal 22 adjustments year to date as proposed is a total of $8,289.59.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
So,
I'm just,
Second for discussion.
yeah, okay, yeah.
What?
Ms. Vadeney?
Are these abatements? We're calling them an adjustment, or it's not an abatement because we're just clearing them? We're writing
We
off
have to
that,
call them
it's like
different.
bad debt, we're just writing it off.
Exactly, we have to call them differently. Abatements are, from what I understood from the tax assessor, there were mistakes, stuff, you know, with that, these were not,
This is more like
These-
we're just writing it
these are
off.
adjustments.
In bad debt, we're writing it off.
They're just classified differently, even in our, audit. They'll show them as adjustments and then we'll have abatements.
So have they paid the proposed penalty or not, or have they said they'll pay the?
Yes, I talked to all of them. I have notes to all of them. They're all expecting my phone call back. Some of them are upset, as you guys noted, but most of them were very happy with the scale. And were willing to pay. People that call usually want to pay. People that don't call, they just throw away the bill and act like they never received it. And these people were from the second round of people that either moved out of state or we never had their corrected address. And somehow the collection agency has some kind of system that they can find people all over the place. I don't know how they do it, but they found these people and their new addresses and they were able to contact them.
even if they move out of the country,
I'm not sure. I haven't had one from out of the country yet.
you will.
I will, yeah, haven't had one yet. But
7 years old.
it was interesting that they found some of these people that we weren't able to find.
You got it?
I wish, no, this is someone that went somewhere.
Are you escaping?
Oh. Wow.
Okay, so the motion was for the first one, the first of, it was $4,278.44 back.
That's for the deceased.
Okay. And we have a motion and a second for that one. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Ms. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Okay, we have a motion for the second, which was the, what was the number on the second one again? 'Cause
$4,011.15.
I don't see that number.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the total penalty adjustments of $4,011.15 based on the recommendation of the finance director.
That's a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
So we've been carrying this bad debt, so to speak, for 10 years.
Well, some of them
are
Some are
10
over
years.
10 years that will be presented to you in the near future once I talk to the auditors. There's gonna be,
Most of them are pretty old, though.
yes, they are.
8 or 9 years old.
Yes,
So
they
we wrote off $8,000 of bad debt that we've been carrying for years and years and years.
And-
The auditors,
and-
do the auditors recommend we do this?
Yeah, actually, they're already in uncollectible. We already have them on our balance sheet as
Okay.
uncollectible liability, so it's not really gonna affect our numbers at all. And interest is just, it's not even like a receivable per se, it's based on
Until
a
you collect it,
percentage
until you
also.
collect it, it doesn't
Yes,
count.
exactly, so,
So how much is on that balance sheet?
off the top of my head, I don't know.
Estimated.
I couldn't even estimate. I can probably look at the audit.
That's just concerning.
This one is in the country. So they can get those areas. And
Yeah, all right, we're gonna move on. Don't worry about that right now.
I'll give it to
Okay,
you.
you
before
can.
you leave.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on to H, discussion by council, vote of the action on proposed amendment to town code of ordinance section 10-64 Municipal Subsidy Program for Low and Moderate Income Housing. First, we're going to start off with public hearing.
Mr. President, I make a motion, we open up the public hearing.
We have a second? We have a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. CJ, is there anybody out there that would like to be heard in the public hearing on this?
Do not see anybody. If there's anybody, please either start your video or unmute yourself if you'd like to be heard on this. Saying that, Mr. President, no.
Okay, we'll ask one more time if anybody would like to be heard on the public hearing on this issue. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Would it behoove us to continue this public hearing? Just so that once we have first reading, it will be more public, that they may want to come in and join in.
Yeah, no problem, continuing the public hearing.
Just in case that this alerts somebody there when they see the first reading.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. George, you want to, for the next, we're just going to continue the public hearing. It doesn't have, it's not something that has to be advertised.
And then we'll do the second reading on that
Correct.
day? Okay.
Yeah. So I make a motion that we continue the public hearing to August 2nd.
Okay, that's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yeah.
Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. We have the first reading on that. Mr. Iglesias, are you with us?
I am, Mr. President.
I know that the changes were minor in this. Can you just update us on what the changes in this one?
Yes, Mr. President, this, the changes were intended to help the High Rocks condominium present owners. There's a presently 133 existing units at High Rocks, and there are no affordable. The units are sold to individual owners, their condominiums, except for 3 units. And in order to make that existing building compliant with your ordinance, we made the change to say of the existing 133 units, the 3 remaining units that are vacant must be affordable. So this would allow High Rocks to, essentially all the people in High Rocks to be, the condominium association to be in compliant with your ordinance. And as a result of administrative oversights, High Rocks was built out of compliance. So this is an effort to clear it up for all those condominium owners that are living there at High Rocks. The developer will still need to go to the planning board to get final plan approval of their plan. But this is one step towards essentially clearing up a administrative oversight.
Okay.
It was, the ordinance was originally adopted in 2008, and High Rocks was passed and, was built at some portion after that. This is a very old problem that has been dogging the town, so to speak, for at least more than a decade.
So we're fixing a problem that occurred, that was started years ago.
Absolutely.
Mr. President, administrative, not administrative.
That's right, that's right. Let's get that straight. Is there anybody from the High Rocks that would like to be heard on this?
Mr. President, I know the High Rocks attorney is on the line, but unless there's questions, this isn't a High Rocks. This is not a High Rocks presentation. This is an ordinance that was presented to clear up our ordinances. High Rocks will have to make their presentation at the planning board. But if you want to hear from them, you certainly can. I believe Mr. Hurley's on the line.
I am.
Okay. I just giving you an opportunity to speak, that's all. But if you're good with it right now, we're just going to continue this for a second reading.
I have nothing further to add. Just want to clarify one thing though with David is that the three affordables that would be required aren't necessarily going to be the three that are vacant, correct? They just need to provide three to be affordable.
That was my understanding.
That's
That's
my
correct.
understanding too.
That's the way the ordinance is drafted, Mr. President. It's not identifying the three vacant. I was just explaining to the council that there are three vacant, and that was the basis of mandating three affordable.
Thank you for that clarification, Attorney Igliozzi.
Okay, so no need to take a vote. That was just the first reading.
No, there's no vote at the first reading, Mr. President. It goes down for second reading on, if you could continue it for second reading on August 2nd. Unless, if there's no changes or comments, it'll be approved on that night.
Go in, so we'll do the public hearing and the second reading in August 2nd. Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you. You got that. Thank you, Madam President. She just brought something to my attention. If we can go back to E. We're talking about the field turf. I neglected to ask a motion to authorize for a signature by the administrator. So I will entertain a motion at this time for this, to authorize Mr. Zelinski to give his signature when the contract comes through and it's all approved with the modifications. Is there a motion?
So
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
I thought we had done that.
Might skip that. It's okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, sir.